So, everybody, today we have the pleasure to interview a very young, intelligent young man, Leonard Vendetto. Verdetto?
Verdetto. Yeah,
Verdetto. Okay, thank you.
Italian.
And so, Lenny graduated from California University with robotic degree, and he's a science technology guy. And he's running for school board at the Deer Lake School District. So, we're going to get right to it, Leonard. Why do you want to run on school board? You're young, you're single, you don't have any kids yet, so that will be the question everybody going to ask. What is your motivation? What inspired you to run?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And before I answer that question, thank you guys for having me on the show. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. I guess the real reason why I'm running is because I'm concerned with the times that we're living in. I really believe that I'm living in a millennial generation, if not a Gen Z generation. They are not knowing their history, and I'm worried about history repeating itself. And I feel like, personally, me, with my being part of the millennial generation, I'm well aware of like what's going on. I can see the writing on the wall, what could happen, because there's a lot of division, a lot of difference between this side that. I'm looking to meet common ground, but there's also things that are just absolutely just wrong to do, just by common sense. So, long story short, I'm just concerned what's going on. I like to take action because it seems like people are just talking, but there's no action being done. It's just a lot of words without action. I'm a guy that wants to be a doer and a sayer at the same time.
Okay.
What do you think schools should prioritize, and do you see them doing that?
Right. Well, let's say the priority is definitely, well, let's say this, keeping our schools safe. That's one of the priorities. Having law force police in there. Keeping the West Ear police in there, like having a resource officer going to the middle school, elementary school, high school. Even if we have to double up, like safety is important. The other thing too is just focusing on traditional education. Having your math, your reading, your science, or even just all those things, just the basic core curriculums that we just need to focus so we can actually compete at a good level with other districts in the area. Because at the end of the day, we want to see results, and also we want to see our kids progress and learn to be the leaders that they need to be.
So it seems like you are concerned about the student in your school district just to compete with other districts. Can you talk about your school district currently? What is the testing score like compared to other school districts?
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know the number on top of my head, but I tell you what, they are improving than they were a couple of years ago. But let's say this, they're still above average if I'm remembering the graphs right. But
Okay.
it's still not enough compared to, for example, like Hampton. I came from Hampton. That's where I'm from.
Okay.
Even with Pine Richland, with Fox Chapel, all those schools like everybody knows about because they have really great education and there's a very good success rate coming out of those schools, and that also even draws businesses there too. So, but with West Ear, we're at least maybe meeting maybe the above average standard. But again, that's something that I need to just to make sure myself. So.
So you want to have a focus on academic improvement, just continuous improvement.
Correct. Yes, sir. Mhm.
Now, since you're a young guy, you graduated, not long ago from college and go into the workforce. Do you feel that your high school education that you have received probably a little bit over 11 years ago,
Yeah.
did that prepare you for the real world?
Well, it did because the thing is that we have really had a good history teacher, and it helped us to know like where we are today at that time.
Hmm.
Because you learn from your history, so you don't make the same mistakes. And the thing is, I was formerly an IEP student. I had test anxiety, so that's what they had me under. But I
Hmm.
wanted to challenge myself and make myself more efficient, if not more, much better, to be with the other kids. Because the thing is this, if we have those kids that have problems like that or even have other disorders, we can challenge them, if not meet those same criteria as the other kids so they can be successful still. And that's the whole reason, personally, I did. And also I had the right teachers to motivate me too. And the
Hmm.
good thing is, one things I do agree about with Deer Lakes, they actually have AWB Career Centers, a vocational school, and that's where I went to do robotics. And the thing is, that actually shows real world experience, if not hands on application, that actually prepares those people that they want to further education in college or even just going out in the trade field. which honestly trade is a big key factor because it seems like robots are taking over a little bit, especially with the AI.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, Bob, I'm going to ask another question if you don't mind. This is
Oh, go ahead.
this is more of a general question. You know, Bob and I are from, I don't know, I'm from Generation X. I don't know, Bob, are you part of the baby boomer age, or
I'm technically at the end of the boomer
you're at the
thing,
end
so
of the
I'm
boomer?
sort of boomer X tweener.
Okay. And the millennial has been getting such a bad reputation among people, among the boomers and Gen X.
Right.
As a millennial, you seem like a very motivated guy. You're intelligent, and I get just for give a little bit of time to defend your generation a little bit, you know, and to see to tell the audience why millennials should be looked at in a respectful way.
Yeah, I think the bad rep is because, and some of it's true and some of it's not true. And it depends how you're raised too. It depends on the parents. And it goes always back to the parents because, and I could say this, that it seems like my grandparents' generation was like hard work ethic, good work ethic to get prepared because they had struggling times like depression and also even just World War II at that time. The baby boomers, I know they had like the wars going on with like Vietnam, all that. I guess you could
Hmm.
say the hippie generation, But but the thing is, I really believe that the reason why we have a bad rep is because our work ethic and just relying on technology is making us more lazy. And the thing is, the technology is taking up so much of our time. Even I catch myself being on my phone a little bit too much than I should be. And this is the thing, we need to go back to the basic things of just, communicating face to face to people, you know, talking in a intelligent manner with each other. Even if we disagree with something, we can at least come to a common ground with certain things. And I really believe my generation needs to have at least a faith, if not a spiritual connection, because everybody's going with just physical, and that's the problem. Like America is losing her identity that way, and I think that's why we're going the direction that we're going. The thing is this: yes, we had the recession back in 2008, 2009 time that affected like the beginning of the millennial generation, which was did create some toughness. The COVID situation that did create some loneliness towards my generation of finding, a wife or a husband, something like that matter of just relationship with friends. All those type of things definitely has emotional impact. But the thing is, we haven't experiencing like warfare, at a dramatic scale. Yeah, we had that Iraqi war for 20 plus years, but again, that was just people just like let that go and thought life was still going on, if that makes sense. So
Hmm.
hopefully that did answer your question. I think it's just more technology is making us lazier and not making us think independently because we're so drawn on social media saying like, oh, this is the answer. Well, not necessarily.
In the 90s, I got into management, and we were hiring Gen X, I guess they were, younger than me. Gen X was the slacker generation. And I've read some books on generational studies. The prior generation that was called the slacker generation turned out to be the greatest generation. So when the folks who fought and won World War II, who we now call the greatest generation, when they were young, they were called slackers. They didn't have the drive and the motivation that the previous generations had. So, yeah, some of these things just repeat, you know?
Yeah.
And, I think that social media is certainly a problem
Right.
because it's algorithms, it's all tuned towards drawing you in, and it plays on dopamine in the brain and all these
Correct.
sorts of things to get you to come in and watch. But time on devices, I don't think is necessarily bad. It depends on what you're doing with it.
Correct. Yeah.
So, if you're learning new things and you're expanding, your horizon, that's what the internet really was at the beginning. It was just like, open information, unlimited numbers of information. Unfortunately, now it has been dominated by people who just want to steal our time and make money off of it.
Right. And the thing is, I really do believe, and not to sound extreme on this, but I really believe when you have very powerful people with social media, like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, heck, even other social media platforms. I mean, honestly, Facebook is literally the big intertwine with the Meta,
Hmm.
Instagram, you name it, Snapchat. All those big tech companies that can have a source, if not controlling people, of how they think and how they react to certain things, especially election times. I mean, you got example even TikTok. TikTok, I mean, for example, out in China with the algorithm, they're doing all these successful things with education, if not making them succeed. Like that motivates the kids to do better. But here
Hmm.
in America, we're seeing all these literally pornographic things, if not things that
Yeah.
are distracting kids to where they're not focus on maybe, hey, doing a great sports, being a great leader, being someone that could change the world and a positive impact. That's what China is trying to program their kids. But over here, it's a totally different opposite, and that's what I'm concerned about, because government's being really controlled. And I personally believe the old Ronald Reagan way is less government, more power to the people.
Hmm.
How many people that in your group of friends or in your social circle that feels the same way you feel? Because it seems like in the media, it portrays the younger generation as very progressive and love socialism. And how,
Yeah.
like, just within your own circle, how many people feel the way you feel?
Well, let's say this, like, I'm a believer in Jesus, and also I have friends that are not, so I'm like in the middle. And what I mean by that is this: is that depending of what you believe in, what you stand for, and again, you can't force people to believe what you believe; it's a choice, right? So, and that's what the free will with human nature. So my point is this: is that there are some of my friends group that do not think the same way as me, even though we get along and we have some common interests in things, but at the same time we don't agree with government agendas or political ideas. There are some friends that do agree, and again, it goes back to the faith of why they agree is because that's what motivates them to do. Again, with common sense things, righteous things. Everything goes hand in hand. That people just don't understand because whatever happens in the spiritual affects the physical, and that's what people get motivated by, or
Yeah.
if not affected by. And I feel like that's what's our leaders, you know, even if it's a leader coming from my generation or the one that's in now, they need to realize that, if not focus on those certain things, because that's what makes a good leader that way. To know all specs and all to be overall thinking like that. But again, to go back to your question, to be simple, you know, I really believe that there's a mixture of people out there like that. And I believe that the reason why some people that do have the same viewpoints as me, they're not open because they don't want to be canceled, they don't want to be pinpointed out, or they don't want the constructive criticism. I actually, quite frankly, I've been seeing the other side as more vocal than actually the conservative side, which I'm thinking like, well, why is that? Like, if you know common sense, it's right. There shouldn't be no shame about it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's why, like, personally, me, if people agree or disagree with me, I'm going to be truthful to what I stand for. I'm going to stand on what's right for every child, or what's every right for my community, if not for my nation. And, because the thing is, people, there's a saying that I like saying is this. I'd rather be hated for doing the right thing, but I don't want to be loved for doing the wrong thing.
A, a person I know is his first term on school board, and he was sort of the dissenting opinion, if you will, on a
Right.
lot of issues.
Hmm.
It's been rough for him,
Yeah.
and there's an animosity really towards him, and an expectation. A lot of the members on the school board have been there for a long time, and you don't know how things are done here. Basically, like almost like an expectation that you need to
Yeah.
just shut up and learn how we do things and go along. But you know, it's not fun. But he doesn't give in to that. I mean, you being a young person, I don't know how long the other school board members have been there, but you could face something like that. I mean, how do you feel about being sort of a lone voice like that with everybody against you?
Honestly, that's okay. I'm used to it, which is the crazy part about it, just because of certain life events that happened in the past. I'm used to being an outsider, you know, and that's the thing. I feel like an outsider with this generation. I'm not trying to play the violin. I'm just saying, just personally with my own, with my own life, is that I like being an outsider, if not like a voice in the wilderness kind of thing, and not to start any craziness or drama. It's trying to be a voice in the wilderness saying, hey, I'm warning you, if we do this, this might not lead to the expectation that what people thinking. Because honestly, this is the honest truth. I believe on the people on school board are trying to meaningfully do what they can. If not, they how they view it, they think they're benefiting the kids. And I'm not making them as bad people. Honestly, they still mean well when you do talk to them face to face. It's just the ideas and the way they're viewing it, they might not see it the way you see it, and they don't know like the long-term effect that actually will hinder the performance of the kids, especially with having social education, if not emotional education, because emotions doesn't go by facts; it just goes by feelings. That's the problem because, again, going back to the social media and to the distractions, we're not a society that goes by logic anymore. We're going by how I feel, or if not, uh, by the feeling of that day, thinking like that's the logical sense. If you have a society like that, if a nation going that way, it will fall. And that's what happened in history with Rome, Greek, Persia, I mean, even Israel. I mean, those nations actually fell at certain points in their lifetime, even nations that don't even exist anymore. And I don't want America to be like that either. So it
Mm.
starts local, starts in the community, and then working your way above.
Well, I have a question for the both of you since it's a conversation, right? You two are in a demographic right now in America is probably the most attacked. You are straight white Christian male, and the culture is to kill masculinity. The culture is to speak against, it's a popular thing, right? Trash the straight white Christian male. I mean, this question to the both of you, as two very different generations, Bob have kids of his own, have four grandsons, and you being 29 years old. How do you two feel about it, and and then to step up to the plate and to be in public eye in this culture, in this situation we're in right now. I mean, I can say you two are pretty brave, but some people don't like me either. So, how do you two feel about it? We're gonna be like a
Can
conversation.
I go first?
Go
Yeah, I was
ahead.
gonna let you go
We
first since you've
respect
been
the
here longer than me.
elderly. You're the
All right.
elderly here.
Elders go
So,
first.
so younger me was not as confident and well spoken as Lenny is here. I was, I've always been an introvert, so I was self conscious and, hesitant to put myself out there. But as I've grown older, put in different situations and worked on it, I mean, I don't really care what people think. I mean, I do. If someone criticizes me or gives me negative feedback, I will think about it. I will consider that. Okay. And if they're right, then I'll use that input. But I don't have any need to be liked. I don't have any need for approval and affirmation from other people. And, I think that's actually a necessary skill for a white man to have. And personally, I don't want to be the victim. At no time do I ever want to be a victim. There's times where I talk about the struggle that men have that people don't talk about, and that's only so that other men who are going through that struggle can hear that and benefit from that. It's never woe is me, victim, I want special treatment, I don't want anything from anybody. I say bring it. It doesn't bother me at all. I mean, the more confrontation, it gives me a chance to speak.
Right.
Leonard?
Well, I tell you what. I mean, how can I say this? Even though I'm a white male, I'm 29 years old, single. Um, I mean, I just picture myself as a human being. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. Like, I have all kinds of friends. I have Spanish friends, black friends. I've been with even with Indian friends. Like, I've been with all kind of culture people. I mean, I love that. I love that. And that's the thing. I think what it is that the government, and going back to the government and the elites, are trying to program these people, and they're using reverse racism, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're trying to do is, they are trying to basically marginalize different races. Like one is suppressed and one has been the victim, or one's being the bad guy, and making me like I'm the bad guy. I've done nothing wrong if not had those friends, what I mean? So, and that's the thing, going back to basic moral and righteousness reasons, love thy neighbor as yourself, you know, and if you love your neighbor, you're going to warn your neighbor about the problems, if not the things. If we do not stop what we're doing now, we're going to hurt ourselves in the long run. We're doing it out of love. That's true love right there. And technically, love is a sacrifice, opposed to, sacrifice for your brothers and sisters, if not your family, no matter what it is. But I think the struggle is that the government, if not, things are trying to be pushed in a way where they're making the masculinity as a bad thing, like they're saying toxic masculinity. There's nothing wrong with the man, the nuclear family, how it used to be. It used to be man as the leader and the woman as the helper, and it was very successful, and they had really good, kids that came out of that, and that's what led me to, again, with my had good parents as they are today, and they taught me very well. So to answer your question, I really think that they're trying to devalue, I guess, the way I look, and which, quite frankly, is using reverse racism, and they're trying to divide us even more, and that's not good. We're supposed to be a united people, and we're supposed to be a very powerful people that's supposed to check the government, and to
Mm-hmm.
make us to be controlling the government, not government controlling ourselves the way we think. If not, hey, I don't want to be with those people because they're black, or oh, I don't want to be with these people because they're Asian. That's just not right. It's going back to the same principle of the love thy neighbor as yourself. So,
And to be clear, I don't experience this out in the real world, in meeting and talking to regular people,
Right.
unless those people are extreme ideologues.
yeah,
But certainly it's a big part of the mainstream, left wing bias in the media and everything. So yeah, you get it on social media, you get it in the news and on media, but in real life it's really not that big of an issue.
No,
And
and I think what I see is, so in the smaller sense is that, straight white Christian males getting attacked in the American culture, but if you look in the bigger culture, is if masculinity in general is being attacked. So
yeah.
that is all men, they believe in traditional value, are being attacked regardless what race you are. And I think that's the bigger picture, in United States, and that's why a lot of the if you go to somewhere in Minnesota or Wisconsin, I think it's Minnesota, and you see the Muslim and the Jews, now they're united together, going to school board and saying, do not, spread your value to my children, or don't,
right.
that kind of thing. So yeah, I think in one sense it's a white straight Christian male, another sense is just in general masculinity being attacked. They want to
Well,
take that
and,
away from.
and every time I hear a example of this toxic masculinity, it's not what I would call masculinity anyway. I mean,
Right.
masculinity is not condescending to people. It's not saying unkind things, arrogant things, aggression. I mean, towards other people. That's not what masculinity really is. But that's always the examples that are brought up.
Right.
And, so just because there are men who are jerks and idiots and do these things doesn't mean that the rest of us should have to, somehow suffer for it, or somehow be painted with that broad brush. And I
Right.
like to remind people, you can do that with women, you can do that with black people, you can do it with anyone. So,
Right.
yeah, my daughter, for some reason, has a new kind of feminist side. I don't know where she used to be conservative. I don't know where she got
It's a
this, but
Barbie movie.
so she tells me that she went to the doctor or something and she saw a lime green Ford Fiesta with a bumper sticker on it that said panty dropper. And some dude got out. I'm like, and she used that as some kind of evidence that there's a man problem. I'm like, the guy's a jerk. I mean, come on. I mean, even without the bumper sticker. I mean, So, it's like, okay, you know,
What
yeah,
if
he's an
he was
idiot. I would never have a panty dropper bumper sticker. I don't even know what that means.
what if that was his wife's car, lime green? It doesn't sound, what if a
I
little
don't know.
bit
I keep
of
trying to decide what panty dropper might mean to a woman. I mean, she just thought it was creepy, and I'm like, yeah, it's definitely creepy and weird, and I don't claim to have anything in common with someone like that.
right, right. So, I think that the general broad brush, like you said, it almost the good guys are being, you know, um, the good guys are being condemned along with men with abusive traits or personality. So masculinity, the positive side of the positive is masculinity in general should be positive and not negative, and they take the abusive men behavior, call that a masculinity versus you have the men who will stand out, go to fight in the war, protect the family,
Right.
go out, make a living, and make sure their family's provided for. That's masculinity, you
Right.
know?
Right. And that's because the man loves his wife and his children, and that's the mindset that I want to have when I have my own family someday. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the thing with when society and this culture that's being pushed, if not brainwashed into the people, not just in schools, but also with the people overall. When men don't have their true identity and their trueness of what they're designed to be, then we're going to lose in a war. And that's how other nations took over. Because look right now, not to go crazy, but it's true. In a bigger picture of things, China and Russia, they're not doing the same stuff that we're doing. And I understand they're a different type of structure than we are. But at the end of the day, they are not being distracted. They're actually trying to come up with ways of how powerful they want to be. I mean, they're working with each other. And there are
Mm-hmm.
countries that do not like us. So at the end of the day, going back to a school level, society starts in our schools. Whatever we're teaching our kids and whatever we're trying to push in, if not trying to, I wouldn't say the wrong word is saying indoctrinate, but to educate, I should say. That's the next generation of taking that knowledge, if not carrying that to the next generation. It takes about 10 to 15 years to teach a newer generation certain things
Mm-hmm.
because what they're teaching now in schools is literally not the same thing what they were teaching about 10 plus years ago for me.
Wow.
Um, are there other millennials on Deer Lake School Board or any other millennial candidates?
Not I'm the youngest candidate right now. I think the oldest might be 70 something years old, so I'm the
So
youngest
you're the
guy.
diversity vote.
Pretty much, I guess you could say in that general sense.
Right.
But I think a gentleman named Sam Smallwood, very nice guy. He basically I think he was probably close around my age. He's either in his late 20s or early 30s. That's what I'm guessing. But he
Okay.
was he was the youngest guy on the board, but he did resign. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, does he know if did he resign out of frustration or did he resign because he
I do
doesn't
not know. I'm not going to put
have?
words in his mouth, to be honest with you. I mean, that was his choice, and that's they have a different board member on there now that was I think a couple years ago was on the board. So
Yeah, they have regular monthly meetings. Usually it's at least twice a month. So, I mean, sometimes people just can't keep up. Something happens in their life. And
right,
Yeah, and I have to say, Leonard, I admire the fact that you're running for school board, being a young guy. I wish more young men would stand up and really fight for what's important. I think one of the things I agree with you is that when a nation loses identity, when people has nothing to fight for, or they don't know what to fight for, or they're fighting against their own country, is when things is going bad. Now I just want to bring that briefly to the women's soccer team. That in the world stage, I mean, America had one of the top female soccer team, and when it initially formed, went out to the war stage. They're fighting for United States. They're out there competing, representing their own country. When you have a soccer team decide they're going to hate their own country, they go out there, and most of the team is kneel down during the national anthem, and you don't have the support of the people anymore. It just like reminds me the U.S. National hockey team went and compete with Russia. We were the underdogs. I mean, America was the
Right.
underdogs, but because we were out there representing the country at the time, and
Right.
the fighting spirit is what got us the championship, the world championship. And when you don't have that anymore, and when the young boys and young kids have nothing to fight for, they don't even know what they're fighting for anymore. And I think that's when the nation's gonna fall. And I completely admire the fact that you are standing up, fighting for the kids. So thank
Right.
you for that.
Well, it's I thank my parents and especially God to for doing this because and again, I wish other candidates or young people will start standing up for right reasons. I mean, and and I understand we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of thinking on certain things, but again, it's going back to common grounds, if not common sense, on certain things. I would say this right now because I like to put my words into action. I'm trying to motivate the parents to be more involved with the school board meetings, and that's the thing. Like that's the thing. It takes accountability on both sides, where it's the parents
Hmm.
and also even the school board. Because the thing is, people might elect these people in because of their names, but doesn't necessarily that they're going to be fitting for the community.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. We vote by names, but instead of the agenda, if not the policies that these people stand for before electing these people in. So, that's the thing. They're voting these people with not knowing what they actually stand for. Just because they're registered Republican or registered Democrat, even though, yes, I'm registered Republican, I'm conservative, um, they need to do their own research. They can't just say like, "Oh, I know that person," or well, what do they stand for? And so I encourage people to go out there and vote for doing their research and knowing who the best candidate is,
Okay.
even if you win or lose. But my thing is, I'm trying to motivate the parents because the reason why I'm trying to motivate them is because when the people have the power and it puts power back to the people, and creating a group where they know like what's happening with the financial system, going back to financial accountability, knowing where our taxes being run, our property taxes, school taxes, you name it. What's this education going towards? Is this going to stuff that's not logical, or is it going to stuff that will go to the basic core curriculums that will actually make all these kids successful so they can become the astronaut or engineer or entrepreneur that they need to be? And that's the thing. That's the one thing that the government's trying to do is control the people where they become workers instead of being leaders. That's the ticket. So it's control. And when you actually have government too much control and the parents are not doing their job about that, then they're going to get away with a lot of things, local and state government. But when you actually have people, doing checks and balances toward the local and state government, then they will start to thinking like, well, maybe we should keep the West Police in, or maybe we should not have the AASA Learning Vision 2025, which is literally, what it says is the emotional learning and social agenda on things, which is not going to be benefit to all the kids at all. It's sneaking in all these things that you see on TV. No matter if they deny it, there's certain wordings that try to sound like it's good, but really at
Right.
the end, it's not going to make these kids learn at all. It's not going to the traditional education. But
Yeah.
also the other thing too is the taxes that everybody can all agree on, wanting to have lower taxes. Right now, I'm actually making connections with people that I know. I was trying to get connected with the robotic people that I used to work for if they want to move out to the Western area, because the problem is we don't have that much businesses. When you
Mm-hmm.
actually put businesses in, that will help out with the property tax going towards the school. That is the key. Put more businesses in, and that will help benefit the people that way. So I'm actually right now talking to one person I know is connected. His name's Christopher. We're going to be talking if we can bring businesses in, and so we can actually try to make connections, and they can make that choice talking to the realtor or the supervisors to make those developments. All it is just trying to be an open door and trying to help out the people. This might be going a step beyond the school board thing, but in a holistic view, it's really going to help out. And it actually goes backing up the campaign promises that I want to do. And trust me, I want to do it.
Thank you, Leonard, for coming on our show, and we wish you the best. And I think you have a bright future, and I think you just have to keep fighting. You got the time, the energy, and youthfulness to keep fighting. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I thank you guys for letting me be on the show, and hoping people go out there and vote, because I think this is a very important election ahead. No matter if it's local, state, national level, I mean, go out there and vote, because if you want to see some changes, and I'm saying I want to do full change, but I'm talking about just the other candidates. If you want to see some change, then you gotta know who you're voting for. So go out
Okay.
there and vote.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lenny.